Like I really like the Old Testament. I used to joke and say I'm Jewish because I found God while I was reading the Old Testament. But if we go back to Genesis, right? What happens is, remember, God calls Abraham, right? He says, Abraham, I see where you are. Leave from your people, leave from your father's place, and I'm going to tell you to go to a certain place. And so this is a different time. There's no GPS. There's no, hey, Siri, tell me, blah, 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 blah. It's a different time. God says, go, and Abraham goes. And so in this following, we get to a point where God says to Abraham, right, through you, so God speaking to Abraham, through you shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. This is how God starts to form his people, right? And so God chooses Abraham, and by extension Abraham's family, right, that he would show what God's people should look like, what God's people should behave like, really. And so he chooses Abraham and his family. So this is what it's talking about when it says, to them belong the glory, the covenants, the giving. This is the covenant that God makes with Abraham. These all the nations, there's all the people doing their own thing. God says, these are my people, right? Paul then starts to explain. Remember I said Paul cooks? Let's get into it, right? And he explains this. For not all who are descended from Israel belong to Israel. Now it's a sticky one still. What does he mean by this, right? Because generally, if you're born in a country, you are a citizen or you're of that country. And so we start to realize that Paul is speaking spiritually because God says the Israelites, right? The Israelites are my people. That's what God says. And so we start to realize here, where Paul says, not all who are descended from Israel belong to Israel. And so physically, yes, if you're born in Israel, you're an Israelite. But now we're speaking about a spiritual Israel. This is what we're talking about, where Israel spiritually represents God's covenant people. And so Paul is essentially saying, hey, like just because you were born here and this is your family, doesn't really mean you're within like that. When you talk about offspring of Abraham, so Abraham's kids and his kids and his kids and their kids and their kids, like all the lineages, he's saying that just because you fall part of that lineage, all right, just because you have Abraham blood, I guess, doesn't actually mean that you are children of Abraham. Where we learn that actually children of Abraham are God's chosen people. Because if this was the case, if it was the case that only the Israelites receive salvation, if it was the case, then friend, you and I are foreigners. Unless, of course, you're watching this from Israel, then shout out, I guess, chaos is in Tel Aviv now. Right, we know that Hebrew talks about faith being a thing that is unseen. We learn that through the things that were unseen, the things that are seen are made manifest, kind of thing. Run that back, we are images of God, right? And so the God that we don't see with our own eyes, but we see the images. So our existence points to a creator.